It is 6 p.m. here in Cairo, time for Egypt News, and we start straight away with the main headlines. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi congratulates the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who won the Nobel Peace Prize. Several American congressmen from South Carolina visit the new administrative capital. And Turkey steps up the strikes on the Kurdish militia in northeast Syria. Welcome back. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received a phone call from the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, where the Ethiopian Prime Minister expressed his gratitude to President al-Sisi for congratulating him after winning the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts to resolve the long-running conflict with neighboring Eritrea. Both sides agreed on boosting bilateral relations as they stressed the importance to dismantle all the obstacles over the Renaissance Dam negotiations, wishing to reach a settlement that fulfills the aspirations of the three countries, Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia. Earlier today, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi congratulated the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who won the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts to resolve the conflict with Eritrea. The president described the prize as a new win for Africa, as it aspires for peace and looks forward to stability and development. In a post on his official social media page, the president said that the efforts will hopefully continue to end all the disputes and the conflicts raging in the Black Continent with the will of its great peoples. Hailed as a visionary and reformer, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed had won the Nobel Peace Prize on Friday. The Nobel Committee said that Abiy was honored for his efforts to achieve peace and international cooperation, and in specific for the decisive initiative to resolve the border conflict with neighboring Eritrea.
Prime Minister.
مصيرنا واحد وأهدافنا المشتركة واحدة، وما يتحقق من خير وفائدة لمصر من شأنه أيضا أن يعود بالنفع والفائدة على كافة دول القارة. إن مصر لن تدخر جهدا لدعم ونقل خبراتها لأشقائها الأفارقة لتصبح أفريقيا قوة فاعلة على الساحة الدولية بحلول عام 2063. سوف تتجه إفريقيا إلى المزيد من التقدم والازدهار والسلام والتعاون المشترك. إن كافة تحركات الدول الإفريقية تهدف لتأمين مستقبل أجيالنا القادمة. تحيا شعوب ودول إفريقيا وتحيا مصر.
Welcome back. Several American congressmen from the state of South Carolina visited the new administrative capital today. The visit is part of a series of visits to the under-implementation mega national projects in Egypt, commissioned by the presidency for the foreign delegations and the representatives of the international organizations and corporations. The visits are aimed at acquainting the visiting delegations with the achievements made so far and briefing them on the potential investment opportunities in Egypt.
Oh, it is a very beautiful place. The prospects are so wonderful. The energy to put it all together is so outstanding. I think that this will be one of the most beautiful capitals in this area and perhaps in the whole world when this is done. I give compliments, high compliments to President LCC for the vision of making this happen.
Also, the Palestinian Public Works Minister, Mohammed Ziada, visited the new administrative capital to inspect the progress in the implementation of the landmark mega national project. He hailed the great achievements made so far and the large numbers of workers employed to complete the project as scheduled. And still in Egypt, the 5th International Conference for the Religious Tourism resumed the activities for the second day at St. Catherine City, South Sinai Governorate. The conference is held from October the 10th until October the 12th under the slogan of "Here we pray together," and brings together 40 ambassadors from different countries all over the world, in addition to the prominent religious and touristic figures. The event aims at extending bridges of interreligious tolerance and opening a dialogue for laying the basis of the world peace in line with the teachings of heavenly religions. The conference is co-organized by the Ministries of Civil Aviation and Tourism in the framework of the Egyptian Keen Interest to boost tourist activities. Turkey stepped up the strikes on the Kurdish militia in northeast Syria after seizing 9 villages near Syria's Ras Al Ain and Tel Abyad, escalating an offensive that has drawn condemnations. According to the Turkish officials, the incursion is launched to defeat the Kurdish YPG militia and is aimed at setting up a safe zone inside Syria to help resettle the Syrian refugees hosted in Turkey. Turkish warplanes and the artillery struck around Ras Al Ain as a convoy carrying Syrian rebels entered Syria. A Syrian monitor said that at least 32 fighters with the SDF and 34 Turkey-backed Syrian rebels have been killed in fighting, while 10 civilians have been killed. Dr. Salah Hassaballah, spokesman of the House of Representatives, expressed his categorical rejection of a talk by the Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan over Egypt and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Hassaballah described Erdogan's justifications of the Turkish offensive on Syria as falsifications, saying that Erdogan is a liar and the mouthpiece for the terrorist Brotherhood organization. A coordinating body for parties and politicians, meanwhile, condemned the Turkish incursion into Syria as an aggression on the Arab-Syrian lands. Also, the Egyptian Republican People Party, the GIL Democratic Party, and the Constitutional Liberals denounced the offensive against the Syrian northeastern provinces, calling for sanctions against Turkey and for readmitting Syria into the Arab League. The American Defense Secretary Mark Esper told his Turkish counterpart that they need to find a way to de-escalate the situation in northeastern Syria before it becomes irreparable, and said that Turkey's incursion risks serious consequences for Ankara. Earlier, Russia, the European Union and the NATO voiced alarm at the Turkish moves in Syria. The details in the upcoming report.
Condemnations of the Turkish operation into Syria grew. Russian President Vladimir Putin warned that Daesh terrorists could escape from jail as a result of the Turkish offensive against Kurdish militias in northern Syria. Putin said in a televised remarks on a visit to the Turkmen capital Ashgabat that Kurds, who were guarding thousands of imprisoned Daesh terrorists, are now fleeing. Meanwhile, European Council President Donald Tusk said the EU is concerned that the military action may lead to another humanitarian catastrophe. He also rejected President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's warning that he would open the gates and send 3.6 million refugees to Europe if they did not back him. The International Rescue Committee aid group says 64,000 people in Syria have fled in the first days of the campaign. Western countries' rejection of the Turkish offensive creates a rift within the NATO alliance. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said after talks with Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu in Istanbul that he expected Turkey to act with restraint in Syria. Stoltenberg said also that the international community must find a sustainable solution for Daesh prisoners in Syria.
An Iranian tanker was hit by suspected missile strikes off the coast of Saudi Arabia, sparking fresh conflict fears 1 month after the attacks on Saudi oil facilities that were blamed by Washington on Tehran. The national Iranian tanker company, which owns the ship, revealed that the hull of the Sabiti was hit by 2 separate explosions off the Saudi coast, saying they were probably caused by the missile strikes. British and the European Union negotiators held a constructive meeting today in a bid to restart the Brexit talks, as the leaders insisted that a deal might yet be possible despite time running out fast. British Brexit Minister Stephen Barclay and the European Union negotiator Michel Barnier met in the Brussels headquarters of the European Union. The meeting came 1 day after talks between the Prime Minister Boris Johnson and his Irish counterpart Leo Varadkar, and just 6 days before the European Union summit that is seen as the key date in efforts to find a deal before the chaotic divorce on October the 31st. Counter-terror police were probing a mass stabbing at a shopping centre in northwest England that left 5 people injured and needing hospital treatment. The attack happened at a shopping centre in Manchester, where a suicide bomber killed 22 after an Ariana Grande concert in 2017. A man in his 40s was arrested on suspicion of serious assault. A powerful typhoon approached Japan, threatening to batter the capital with the heaviest rain and winds in 60 years, shutting down stores, factories and subway systems, and disrupting a Formula One Grand Prix and the Rugby World Cup. Typhoon Hagibis is due to make landfall on Japan's main island of Honshu on Saturday, a month after one of the strongest typhoons to hit the country in recent years destroyed or damaged 30,000 houses and caused extensive power outages. The Japan Meteorological Agency said that the storm could be the strongest to hit Tokyo since 1958, and people should be preparing for high waves and storm surges. The International Monetary Fund maintained the positive outlook for the Egyptian economic growth during the current fiscal year 2019-2020, citing a remarkable revival in the country's economy as a whole and also a revival in the tourism and natural gas sectors. In the 5th review of the Egyptian economy, the IMF forecast a growth rate of 5.9% during the current fiscal year and said that the inflation will decline from 10.7% to 9.6%, adding that it will further decline during the next fiscal year 2020-2021 to reach 7.4%. The IMF also hailed the monetary policies adopted by the central bank, saying that such policies will contribute in reducing the inflation rates. The Central Agency for Public Mobilization and Statistics said that the Egyptian annual urban consumer price inflation decreased to 4.8% in September from 7.5% in August, slowing to the lowest level in almost 7 years. The Statistics Agency added that the inflation should fall again in October but rise in November due to the base effect from last year's figures. World shares basked in optimism over signs of a detente in the US-China trade war and hopes that Britain was moving closer to a smooth exit from the European Union. European shares led to charge, with the Euro Stoxx 600 jumping 1.1% and heading towards the strongest day since late August. Frankfurt's main index jumped 1.7% and was on course for the biggest daily gain since June. A rally in the Asian shares had earlier set the positive tone, with an index of the Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan climbing 1.4%. And the oil prices surged after an Iranian tanker was hit off the coast of Saudi Arabia, sparking fears 1 month after the attacks on the Saudi oil facilities. Brent and New York crude contracts were up more than 2% higher, ratcheting up geopolitical and the supply tensions in the Gulf region. International benchmark Brent crude futures were up $1.39 or around 2.4%. The U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose $1.16 to $54.71 a barrel. Jordan and the Kuwait football teams in the world of sports were held to a goalless draw in the encounter in the World Cup qualifiers across Asia. The match took place at the International Amman Stadium in the Jordanian capital. After the draw, Kuwait reached the 4th point and occupied the 2nd place after Australia, while Jordan is still occupying the 3rd place, also with 4 points as Kuwait on goal difference. And Belgium became the first team to qualify for the 2020 European Championship finals as Romelu Lukaku scored twice in a 9-0 thrashing of San Marino Brussels, while the Netherlands needed a late comeback to beat Northern Ireland. Also, Croatia took control of Group E by beating Hungary 3-0 in Split, while Slovakia jumped into 2nd place despite being held to a 1-1 home draw by Wales. Elsewhere, Robert Lewandowski netted a hat-trick as Poland won 3-0 at Latvia to strengthen the position at the top of Group G. And this brings us to the end of the sporting segment of Egypt News for today, as well as the news bulletin. Thank you for watching and goodbye.